I was born, Alabama, where I'm from. Don't throw your hands up, put it up, your ass. I ain't talking about it, I'm talking about the hell. I'm talking about the deal. A-L-A-B-A, you're making this what I feel. Alabama, I was born, Alabama, where I'm from.
Saving the time.
A-L-A-B-A, you're making this what I live. Alabama.
What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with another edition of Tidal Wave Talk. This is week 5 of the season. Alabama yet to have their bye week. It'll be coming up sometime in October. I think actually maybe in 2 weeks. That sounds about right. But coming off a great win over Ole Miss, a struggle win, won 24-10 by 2 possessions, which is good. I think that the defense showed up in the way that you would expect it to against a team like Ole Miss, who has one of the better offenses in the nation right now. Great quarterback in Jackson Dart that can get the ball to his receivers. So for Alabama, even though I know it was a home game and everything, either way, to get the victory and shut down Ole Miss, I think that's improvement. I think that's pretty good. Still got to work on the offense, though. Jalen Milroe, before the Ole Miss game, was announced that he would be the starter the rest of the season. He will get his, what would it be, 4th start against, 4th start of the season. It'll be against Mississippi State this week on the road in Starkville. I'm excited. I love seeing road games for Alabama in the SEC. This will be their first road test after going to South Florida. The line is out on the game. Per ESPN, it is 14.5 for Alabama. They are favored. And we got a lot to get into. So I look at Mississippi State, forget Alabama for a second. Mississippi State looking like a really good team in 79 passing yards, 60% completion, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. I will say, however, the red flag is 11 sacks. Just like Mississippi State, just like Alabama's offensive line, is suspect. Sacks for Will Rogers, I mentioned. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. So when you look at Mississippi State, are they going to be a threat to Alabama? They could. Love the vertical passing game. It's not as much air raid as it was with Mike Leach. Rest in peace to him. You know, I think a lot of football fans, it was a shock last season when we lost him. And I know this team's playing this season for Mike Leach. I'm sure Washington State is playing for Mike Leach. I'm sure Texas Tech. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there still missing the Pirate. We love you, Big Mike. And, rest in peace to him. It still kind of hits me a little bit that we lost that coach. So, anyway, not here for tears or anything like that. Again, this is a late game, actually. Going to be a night game in Starkville on the road in the SEC for the Crimson Tide. 9:30, 9 p.m. Eastern. Local time in Mississippi, it'll be 8 o'clock. This will be a 9 o'clock game on September 30th, this Saturday. So, what does Alabama need to do? They need to get off to a fast start because Mississippi State loves to air the ball out. They love to play fast. They love to get the ground game going. They got Jaquavius Marks at running back, 352 rushing yards for him off 63 carries. He averages about 5.6 a carry. He's got 4 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Trek, if I'm pronouncing that right, Griffin has 388 yards receiving. So he's the go-to guy for Mississippi State as a receiver. Again, I'll say that name again. Trick Griffin. And then the lone star on the Mississippi State Bulldogs defense is Jet Johnson. Leads in sacks and tackles. I'm sorry, he leads in interceptions and tackles is what I meant. Looking at the stats per ESPN, 45 tackles, 2 picks for Jet Johnson. Also watched Nathaniel Watson at linebacker, DeCameron Richardson at corner, Sean Preston at safety, Marcus Banks. I'll say this. I think Mississippi State has the guys to take down the Alabama offense. I really do. I think it's one of the more underrated SEC defenses, one of the more underrated in the country. Question is, do they have the offense? Because Alabama will score. They're not going to get shut out. They're not going to get shut down. They're going to find ways to score. You got Isaiah Bond, Ja'Cory Brooks, different guys for Milroe to throw the ball to, air it out, give the ball off to the running back. What I hate is we haven't seen much of Justice Haynes, but I know we got Jason McClellan. I understand we got Roydell Williams back there. So I would say feed the ball, control time of possession, get down the field, score, and score. I think this is whoever's going to be able to control the clock and move the football is going to be able to win the game. You don't have to be too explosive if you're Alabama. Just control the field and watch the game clock. Eat the clock up. Keep Mississippi State on the sidelines if you can, because they're pretty good offensively. So as long as Will Rogers and company are on the sideline, I think they have a really good chance to win this football game on Saturday. So I like Alabama to win. We'll talk about it a little bit more. Again, the line is 14.5. Question is, are they going to cover? And if they cover, they would win by 15 or more points. We'll get to that in just a second. All right, kind of a quick one today. This is a great rivalry between Alabama and Mississippi State, much like Ole Miss, which I don't think I mentioned it last week. This will be the last time in a little while, I should say, that Alabama plays either of the Mississippi schools in the SEC because they're getting rid of divisions. They're switching it up a bit. They're going to play all the other West teams, and then they're going to get a couple teams like Tennessee. I think next year in 24 they get South Carolina from the East. But, of course, next year it's not going to be East and West. It's just going to be SEC. I would say that you have a really good matchup in this game. Not going to be the toughest test. Not going to be the easiest game. Can Mississippi State win? Yes. I think Bama is very much beatable. I think it's one of those things, though, for a game like this, I don't think it's like if Mississippi State does this or that, they'll win the game. I think it's if Alabama doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, then Alabama can win and Mississippi State will fall. So Mississippi State, by the way, I didn't mention this. So it's at Davis Wade, 8 o'clock Central Time, 79-degree weather. Over-under is 46.5, 14.5 Alabama. Mississippi State has not won a conference game this year. They're 0-2. They're 2-2 on the season overall. Alabama 1-0 in conference play, beating Ole Miss last week. 3-1 overall, number 12 in the nation, going on the road. Mississippi State lost their last 2 games in conference play, which were their last 2 games, period, back-to-back weeks. Got blown out by LSU. Can't blame them for that. LSU's a good team. Lost a close one on the road to South Carolina, however. Mississippi State sits at the bottom of the West. That's interesting. That is interesting. So, getting into our prediction, again, we will say I'm going to go ahead and give the score. Again, the spread is 14.5. I'm going to say that Alabama doesn't get to 14.5. Basically, if it has in a half, they're saying they should win by more than that number of points. So they should win by more than 14. If they win by 14 or less, they haven't covered the spread. I don't think they're going to cover it. I think right on the money, they're going to win by 2 touchdowns. And I'm going to give you a final score of 27-13. I do think they go on the road in the SEC and they struggle, but I think it's one of those where they're up in the fourth quarter, could be tied in the fourth quarter, but I think they're going to struggle in this game. They're going to find rhythm moving the ball. They could have an explosive play or two. I think the defense is stout. Speaking of, I know we haven't talked much about the defense in this game. Dallas Turner has looked lights out, amazing. You look at Kool-Aid McKinstry on the back end. I think that, we have a lot of guys. Caleb Downs at free safety, 27 total tackles for him, has yet to get a sack. Deontay Lawson has stepped it up at linebacker as a sophomore this year, 2 sacks for 18 yards. Chris Braswell as a senior, 3.5 for 19. Dallas Turner, I mentioned his name. He's got 4.5 sacks for 27 yards. Tim Smith is good. Jalen Key doesn't have any sacks. He's got an interception for 13 yards. He's got 20 tackles. Malachi Moore. I could go down this list. These guys are some dudes. It's going to get tougher as the competition goes along. Thing about Alabama this year, too, is that they have the defense to win big games. But in those big games, like look at Texas. They're a lone loss. Look at what happened with South Florida. You have to have an offense in today's college football. Alabama has an offense, but it's not where it should be in order to blow teams out of the water like they have in years past. So I think if they just clean up the offense and everything, they'll be all right, and then probably run the table, win a national title. But let's just face it, it's not the year for that. Next year in 24, we'll talk about 2024 when it's 2024. Let's focus on 2023. I think it's a given Alabama's going to a bowl game. The question is, do they lose 2 or 3 games? Even if that Texas game is their only loss, even if that is the case, they got to play Georgia in the SEC title. And I hate to admit it, but I think Georgia would murder them. You want to talk about murder ball? Georgia has some murder ball right now this season. They'd probably get to Alabama. As far as this game goes, I'm sticking to 27-13 on the road for the Alabama Crimson Tide. A night game at Starkville. What do they call it? Stark Vegas? So Alabama's record after Game 5, they go to 4-1 on the year. They don't quite cover the spread. They come pretty close. A 9 o'clock Eastern game, 8 o'clock local time in Mississippi State. Some good games this weekend. Georgia-Auburn as well. We got that preview video for you. What else we got this week? Penn State, Northwestern, USC at Colorado. That could be a good one too. Kansas and Texas, undefeateds. Does Texas fall? Number 3 in the nation. Kansas, number 24. There's a lot of great games. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. I love y'all. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy your college football, and we'll see you next time. Ballard is checking out. Peace.
The Alabama anthem, roll throw your hands up, put it up, your ass, and I ain't talking about it, I'm talking about the hill, I'm talking about the deal, A-L-A-B-A, make this what I live, Alabama while I was born, Alabama where I'm from, roll throw your hands up, put it up, your ass, and I ain't talking about it, I'm talking about the hill, I'm talking about the deal, A-L-A-B-A, make this what I live. Alabama, while I was born, Alabama,
Saving from the time.
A-L-A-B-A, this what I live. Alabama.